So let's start talking about money. Question is, how often can rent be raised? And what are the legal limits on raising rent?
When it comes to space rent, I wish there was a more national rule, but the truth is it's regulated by each city. There are some counties in California that have a rent control. However, when it comes to where we're at in the Silicon Valley, each city is going to be independent of its rent control. In the end, the politicians are deciding the consumer index. How's inflation going? How's the economy going? What's a fair rate for that city? In San Jose, we're just a little bit above 3%. It used to be 3.6% is the maximum raise. Now I think it's 3.1, but that changes based on a regulated index that the city provides.
What is happening with the prices of mobile homes?
That's a very popular question that we get. And I'll say it this way. It's a year and a half ago, we had between 2021 to 2023, we had a very hot market. When after COVID that did not have a chance to move, all of a sudden we had a sprint of people wanting to buy, and demand was very high at that time. As of recently, how I describe it is consumer confidence is an issue, interest rates are an issue. And when I say consumer confidence, it's sellers and buyers not feeling confident about the country. And usually this happens when a new president changes.
Can management restrict how many people are living in the home? Can they restrict how many cars are there?
The general California rule, the maximum is 2 to a room and 1 in the living room. So if you have a 2-bedroom, the maximum people you can have is 5 people. If you have a 3-bedroom, it's 7 people. And that's the California rule. And then you have park rules that would layer above that, right? So if I were to say the California rule in the spatial positioning of the home, it's 3 feet on each side. But if the park has more rules as an addendum on top of that, they're allowed to make these rules at the beginning.
So they can be more restrictive.
So yeah, they can go less than if the California says you can have 5 and they want to say you have 4, they're able to do that too.
Let's talk about evictions. Are there guidelines? Are there regulations about who can be evicted or for what reasons someone could be evicted?
Yeah, so the popular word is a 3 and 60. So WMA is kind of the Western Manufactured Home Association. They define what's a proper eviction process. And it does change from time to time. But what a park will do is do a 3-day notice to perform. Hey, we give you a 3-day notice to fix this or to pay the rent. The most common are being behind on rent, any criminal action, not having a lease agreement in the park. Sometimes people have made sales within the park and not notified the park themselves. Sometimes people have had new people or children or family members move into the park and sold privately. Anything that they can catch you on breaking the rules from the original contract, they have the right to send you a notice to perform.
Okay, Jules' question was about trees. Whose responsibility is it to take care of the tree? The roots underneath the ground are, growing all over the place. They might be breaking up concrete or whatnot. Is that the park's responsibility or is that the homeowner's responsibility?
So if it was your tree that you grown, you would have to be responsible. But if it's something that's been there when you purchased, now it's kind of like, hey, should this be the park's responsibility or ours? And I know it's not a black and white answer, right, but it should be the park's responsibility if it's damaging infrastructure, if it's ruining, if it's a potential safety hazard.
What rights does a homeowner have if the park now has a new owner?
I've seen parks sell. Nothing's changed. Everything's the same. There's no complaints. I think the biggest concern is does the rules change? Is the rent control going to be managed? What are the maintenance things that are going to change? That is kind of mostly comes out of the MRL. Are they going to strictly push to their fullest capability? Actually, it brings me to this thought, and I think the general public should know this. A lot of parks are starting to be very pushy and proactive on these rules because they know that some residents are not capable of fixing it up. and it'll be a situation where they'll have to do a quick sale of their home and they'll have to get a new home in their park. It's been a recent tactic of park owners to do that. I don't personally like that, or at least like have the proper education of what that is.
Can a park limit how long guests can stay in a home?
Yes, there's rules and regs around that. I believe. I mean, they don't have to, but there are rules such as a 30-day maximum, and usually they allow a longer stay. I mean, some parks never look. Some parks don't have a way to really regulate this, but there's also a bit of gray area that we can use on a legal perspective to kind of help make a situation like this work better. If there is, I find that often where it's like they're in a health condition situation and we can count someone as a caretaker, this happens a lot. And we can take the legal side of saying, hey, you can't really stop the caretaker from living at this home. And if we have to register a family member as a caretaker, a resident will be able to do that.
What information can management insist that homeowners provide to them?
On the application status, when someone's purchasing a home, they can ask for verification of previous residency. They typically will ask for their ID. Asking for ID and social security card is sometimes a very common thing. They don't really have a need to have to ask your income or anything unless they're an actual applicant.
Certainly no need to ask about your immigrant status.
Correct. But
things like, the license plates of your cars, is that?
That is something that they are allowed to ask for. That is somewhere in the MRL states that it's kind of a safety clause to make sure that they know the cars are parked properly and tracking that. But knowing how many cars are in the park is something that the park is kind of responsible for, so they do cover that.
What things can management force a homeowner to upgrade or modify?
We have a lot of people that are like, hey, this has been like this for 15 years when I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
How come they're telling me to fix it now? The thing is, HCD governs the parks, and then the parks govern the residents. It's the HCD's duty to make sure parks are clean, are safe, have a good general aesthetic to the public. So trim, skirting, proper paint are common things that HCD will ding you for. So that's what the parks will also ding you for. The other thing that's very common is steps, railing, any fire hazards where a shed is built and it's in the way of a fire compliance situation, any bent fences that might be leaning over. Generally, everything that you can find on the aesthetic of the outside.
Who's responsible for utility repairs?
Utility repairs are, if we're talking so there's a cement pad around your utilities.
Mm-hmm.
That anything there and above space is the park's requirement, right? Anything that goes into your home and the utilities on that side of the outside of that square is yours.
So if someone feels like they are being harassed or intimidated by park management, what should they do?
Yes, so that's happened a lot.
You've already mentioned documentation.
Yes.
Extremely important. So write everything down.
Correct. There's a park that's on Oakland Road. I won't name it, but they get very intimidated to be told what to do, what to repair, and there's a little bit of harassment by the park manager. It's something I revert back to MRL, and it's really easy to kind of look up through MRL. GSMOL is an organization that's GSMOL,
Golden State Mobile Home Owners League.
Correct. And then talking to if you have a local city organization, Sunnyvale has their team organization. They love, there's a lot of these resources that people put out there, governments put out there, that caring people start associations like you in Silicon Valley Village. Going there and getting the right advice there is really something that can be a great starting point. I'm not familiar with what is harassment and what's not. I'm more familiar when it's kind of like the weird pressure of trying to get it sold as is. But
So could they file a formal complaint, and would they do that with HCD?
Project Sentinel has been my
Okay.
go-to person with that type of thing. HCD is another, but the truth is they're slow and hard to reach. and as much as we can have an emergency happen, they can get back to us in like a month.
Okay.
I hate to be biased, but you can always come to us, and I have regular meetings with Bruce like every other week. So I run things by him, and sometimes he'll just give me a quick cheat code of what's the right thing to do, and we can do that. And there's something that I did want to bring up, a quick,
Okay.
not a pitch, but it's something that we're, just like how you mentioned WRO, we do have a Facebook group organization that we've worked on, gathering multiple different parks in the Silicon Valley. Because what I realized, there's a Sunnyvale organization, there's a San Jose organization, there's a lot of these things. But the truth is, nobody wants to go to these meetings. Nobody, wants to take the time out of their day. And I'm trying to push for a more digital platform. So we're really working on building a community within a Facebook group where people can vent, just having some reason to have a good, positive connection in that Facebook group, but also so that everyone can be connected, share the resources. I'm having a problem with the park bullying me. What would you do in this situation? Comment. You have so many people contributing back, and that sense of community is so welcoming, and it makes people feel comfortable and safe to be able to have a place to act. No park managers, no park ownerships in these groups. And then on top of that, it's good to have a platform where if there is a major issue that's a threat to residents, we should be able to have a place to distribute that news so people can fight for it. So that's something that our team's working on, like connecting a lot of people, and that's on MH Unity. But mhunity.com, it's a Facebook group that kind of does that. But let's go with, do you have another question? And then I'll let Patrick share something that if he feels like it's important to kind of let people know, and anything that's valuable for the residents.
There was one question about, is there a way for me to own the land under my feet?
Ooh.
So first, we've explored that. That was subdividing the park into individual plots is cost prohibitive. That's what Winchester Ranch, the approach they tried to take, and it was more than anyone could afford. However, there are what are called resident-owned communities. They're mostly on the East Coast, who is willing to try and work with mobile home park in California. As I say, they've helped hundreds of mobile home parks on the East Coast buy out the land from the owners, and then installed a board that is elected by the residents. They choose the management company. They set the park rules.
Yeah, that's totally true. It's some people call them rock, but it is a very large feat to accomplish because it takes the buy-in of at least like I don't know the exact number, but it's like 70% of people have to agree to it. Actually, does the whole park have to agree?
No, you don't have to have 100%, but you need to be over 50% of people who are signed up members. Yes, I agree that we need to have a co-op before they even start the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they want that number to be 75, 80% before they make the offer.
We have to wrap up soon here. Thank you, Patrick, for taking the time on this. I mean, so like if this is something that you guys like, let us know. We can organize another one. And as a follow-up, I have Bruce Denton that has agreed to going with us to do another question asking, just like this, an AMA, ask him anything around this type of thing. So anything regarding legal action, and a lot of these questions that I couldn't really fully answer too clearly, I've taken note of adding that on his list. Again, he is the top attorney that always fights for residents. He never protects park owners. And he helped with a lot of these cases for me and for many other residents. And mhunity.com is a Facebook group. So you have to enter in it as a Facebook member. And then once you're there, you can do all you want.
There's normal posting.
Yeah. And the role is to keep it like an open conversation for anything. It's really meant to really connect residents and have like a gathering where people can share resources and share information. Also, you see people support small businesses on there, and I love that. So, yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Patrick, for taking the time to get on here. And this really helps a lot of residents and awareness around any questions. And I know the residents appreciate it. So thanks again.
And thank you, Franco. I definitely appreciate the shared passion we have
Thanks.
to educate mobile homeowners about their rights. So yeah, if there is interest, we will do this again.
Awesome.
And you got to let us know that you're
Yes.
interested.